My husband joked about my weight at a barbecue, but his best friend's comeback made him turn pale. I was 32 when I finally got pregnant after 4 years of fertility treatments. 4 years of needles and hormones and invasive procedures. 4 years of negative tests and false hopes. 4 years of watching everyone around me get pregnant effortlessly while I spent $40,000 we didn't have trying to make it happen. The hormones wrecked my body. I gained 60 pounds before I even hit the second trimester. My face broke out in cystic acne that left scars. I lost half my hair. It came out in clumps in the shower until I had visible bald patches. My ankles swelled so badly I couldn't wear shoes. My skin stretched and tore, leaving angry red marks across my stomach and thighs. The doctors had warned me about side effects, but nothing prepared me for watching my reflection become unrecognizable, for looking in the mirror and seeing a stranger, for watching my husband's eyes when he looked at me, how they'd flicker away just a little too quickly. My husband said it didn't matter, that he'd love me no matter what, that we were in this together, that all that mattered was the baby. But none of that mattered to me because we were having a baby. After 4 years of hell, we were finally having a baby. Except nothing went according to plan. At 28 weeks, my water broke. I was at home, folding laundry when I felt the gush. I knew immediately what it meant. It was too early. Way too early. The hospital tried to stop labor for 3 days. Pumped me full of magnesium that made me feel like I was dying. Made my skin burn and my head pound. But her heart rate kept dropping. They had no choice. Our daughter was born at 28 weeks and 3 days. She weighed 2 pounds, 4 ounces. She fit in the palm of my hand. Her skin was so thin I could see every vein, every organ. Her eyes were still fused shut. Her lungs weren't developed. Her heart struggled with every beat. She looked like a baby bird. Fragile. Breakable. Impossible. They whisked her away immediately. I didn't get to hold her. Didn't get to touch her. Just saw a flash of purple skin and tubes before she was gone. She spent 87 days in the NICU. I lived at that hospital. I set up camp in that tiny room with the plastic walls and the constant beeping. Sleeping in a chair that left permanent marks on my back, pumping every 2 hours in a closet-sized room that smelled like bleach and desperation, and the crushed dreams of 100 other mothers. Learning to change a diaper around IV lines and monitor wires and feeding tubes. Learning the sounds of the machines became my new language. Which beeps meant her oxygen was low. Which alarms meant her heart rate had dropped. Which sounds meant the nurses would come running. I could tell the difference between every machine in that unit. I could hear them in my sleep. I watched her stop breathing 4 times. I watched them resuscitate her twice. I watched her tiny chest stop moving and felt my own heart stop with it. My husband would visit for an hour after work, sometimes an hour and a half if traffic was light. He'd stand by the isolette, looking uncomfortable in the harsh fluorescent lighting. He'd hold her for maybe 10 minutes through the glove ports, his large hands clumsy with the tiny snaps and wires. Then he'd check his watch, kiss my forehead, say he had to go, that he had an early meeting, that he needed to sleep, that one of us had to maintain normalcy. Then he'd leave. He'd go home to our house, to our bed, to silence and darkness and normal life. While I stayed in that room where time didn't exist, and hope was measured in ounces gained and breaths taken. I slept 3 hours a night on a good day, usually less. Usually I just dozed in that chair, jolting awake every time a monitor beeped, my heart racing, terrified that this was it, that this was the time she wouldn't come back. I learned the names of every nurse on every shift, knew which ones would sneak me extra coffee, knew which ones had lost babies of their own, and understood the terror in my eyes, knew which ones would sit with me at 3 a.m. when I couldn't stop crying. I knew which vending machines had the best coffee, which bathroom had the best water pressure for washing my face at 3 a.m. when I'd been crying for an hour straight, which window in the waiting room got the most sunlight, which corner of the parking garage I could scream in without anyone hearing. I memorized every inch of that hospital. It became more familiar than my own home. When we finally brought her home on day 88, I was a shell of myself. Exhausted doesn't even begin to cover it. Sleep deprived, emotionally destroyed, mentally shattered, still carrying all the baby weight, plus an extra 15 pounds from stress-eating vending machine food at 2 a.m. because I was too busy keeping a fragile infant alive to worry about the gym, too busy to worry about anything except keeping her breathing. She needed to be fed every 90 minutes around the clock. The alarm on my phone went off so many times a day I started hearing it in my sleep. Started hearing it when it wasn't even ringing. She had 3 different medications, each with specific timing requirements. One at 7 a.m., 3 p.m., and 11 p.m. One at 9 a.m., 1 p.m., 5 p.m., and 9 p.m. One every 6 hours on the dot. I set timers, made spreadsheets, lived and died by the clock. She needed oxygen monitoring, a clip on her toe connected to a machine that beeped if her levels dropped. That machine beeped at least 10 times a night. Every single time, I'd jolt awake in a panic, my heart racing, checking to make sure she was breathing. She needed physical therapy exercises. 4 times a day, I'd move her tiny limbs through specific ranges of motion, working muscles that hadn't developed properly, teaching her body how to be a body. Endless doctor appointments, cardiologist, pulmonologist, pediatrician, developmental specialist, ophthalmologist, audiologist, sometimes 3 appointments in 1 week, sometimes 2 in 1 day. My husband went back to work immediately, the day after we brought her home. Said we needed the income. Said the medical bills were piling up. Said the insurance wouldn't cover everything. Said someone had to maintain normalcy. Said he couldn't just abandon his career. I was alone. Again, just like in the hospital. Just me and her and the constant terror that I'd mess something up and lose her. He started making little comments about 2 months in. Jokes, he called them. Little observations that were supposed to be funny but felt like knives. Maybe if you ate a salad once in a while instead of ordering pizza. I miss the old you. The fun you. When are you going to start taking care of yourself again? You know, other moms lose the weight within a few months. Maybe you should try working out. We could get you a gym membership. I was taking care of our daughter. The daughter he'd helped create, then abandoned me to raise alone. The daughter who needed me every 90 minutes. Who needed medications and monitoring and constant vigilance. Who could die if I messed up even once? But sure, I should worry about fitting into my old jeans. At his company barbecue last month, I almost didn't go. I was exhausted. I looked terrible. I knew I looked terrible. My hair was thin and lifeless. My face still had acne scars. I was wearing stretchy pants and an oversized shirt that hid most of my body. I felt like a whale, but my husband insisted. Said it would be good for me to get out. Said I needed to be social. Said his boss kept asking about the baby. Said it would look bad if I didn't come. So I went. I was holding our daughter, talking to his boss's wife about sleep training. Our daughter was 6 months old, adjusted age 3 months because of her prematurity, finally starting to gain weight properly. She was up to 12 pounds. Still tiny, in the 5th percentile, but thriving, growing. The doctors were amazed by her progress. They kept using the word miracle. I was proud. Exhausted beyond measure, but proud. I'd kept her alive. Against all odds, I kept her alive. That's when I heard him. He was standing with his buddies near the grill, beer in hand. His third beer. I'd been counting. He always got too loose with his third beer. Said things he shouldn't say. One of them, his college friend, a guy named Travis, asked why he looked so tired. And my husband laughed. That laugh that used to make me smile. That laugh I'd fallen in love with 8 years ago. Now it made my stomach turn. That's what happens when you're married to someone who ate for 3 instead of 2, he said. Now I'm stuck doing all the night feedings because she can't roll over without getting winded. The group went silent. One guy, someone from accounting, looked at the ground. Another, the VP of sales, took a long drink of his beer, clearly uncomfortable. They knew. Everyone knew what I'd been through. What I was still going through. The story had spread through the office. I stood there, frozen, my daughter asleep against my chest, her tiny body warm and alive against mine. The body I'd destroyed to give her life. The body I'd sacrificed 1,000 times over. His best friend, the one who'd been his college roommate, his groomsman, the guy who'd visited us in the NICU more than my own husband, stepped forward. I'd known him for 8 years, since the beginning of my relationship with my husband. His name was Ben. He'd always been quiet, kind, the steady one in their friend group, the one who remembered birthdays and asked how you were really doing, the one who listened. His voice was ice, pure ice. You mean the woman who spent 3 months sleeping in a hospital chair while you went home every night? The one who almost died bringing your daughter into the world? That woman? My husband's face drained of color. Dude, it was just a joke. Lighten up. God, when did you get so sensitive? Ben wasn't finished. I was there. Every single day for 2 months, I stopped by that NICU on my lunch break. You know who I saw every single time? Your wife. You know who I didn't see? You. That's not fair, my husband said, his voice rising. I was working. Someone had to pay the bills. Someone had to keep our lives together. Ben pulled out his phone. Want to talk about bills? Because I have every Venmo transaction from the last 6 months. While your wife was in the NICU, living on vending machine food and donated coffee, you spent $300 at the bar, $450 on golf, $200 on video games, $180 at a steakhouse. Want me to keep going? The boss had stopped flipping burgers. Everyone was staring now. The conversations around the yard had gone quiet. People were watching. I watched my husband's face cycle through emotions. Embarrassment first. His ears went red. Then anger. His jaw clenched. Then fear. His eyes darted around looking for an escape. Then he made his fatal mistake. He got defensive. Doubled down. She chose to stay there every night. I offered to take shifts. She's the one who insisted on being there 24/7. What was I supposed to do? Force her to leave? I finally found my voice. You offered twice. Both times you showed up drunk and the nurses wouldn't let you hold her. Both times you lasted less than an hour before saying you needed to leave. A woman I didn't know, someone's wife, gasped. The boss's wife squeezed my hand, her grip tight and supportive. Ben stepped closer to my husband. He wasn't a big guy, maybe 5'10", average build. But in that moment, he seemed enormous. Seemed to take up all the space in the yard. I have something else to show you. He swiped through his phone and held it up. It was a photo of me in the NICU, my face pressed against the isolette, tears streaming down. The timestamp showed 2:47 a.m. My hair was greasy and pulled back in a messy bun. I was wearing the same clothes I'd been in for 3 days. A stained t-shirt and yoga pants with holes. Dark circles under my eyes so deep they looked like bruises. I looked destroyed, like a ghost. like someone who'd forgotten what it meant to be human. I took this the night your daughter stopped breathing, Ben said quietly. The alarms went off. The nurses rushed in. The doctor said it was touch and go. Your wife was hysterical, screaming, begging them to save her. You know where you were? My husband said nothing. His face had gone from red to white, pale as paper. At a bachelor party in Vegas. I called you 11 times. I texted you 23 times. Your wife called you 17 times. You never answered. Not once. I drove 40 minutes to that hospital at 3 in the morning because your wife was alone and terrified, and I couldn't stand the thought of her going through that by herself. I remembered that night. The worst night of my life. How I begged the nurses to save her. How I'd watched them press on her tiny chest, forcing air into her underdeveloped lungs. How her skin had turned blue, then gray, then almost translucent. How I'd been certain, absolutely certain, that she was going to die. That I was going to watch my daughter die. How I'd called everyone in my contacts, desperate for someone to be there with me. My mom was 3 states away. My dad was on a business trip in Europe. My sister was unreachable. And my husband was in Vegas, drunk at a bachelor party for someone he barely even liked. Ben had come. He'd walked into that NICU at 3:30 in the morning in his pajamas and held my hand while they resuscitated my daughter. He'd bought me coffee from the vending machine. He'd sat with me until the sun came up, not saying much, just being there. Just existing beside me so I wasn't alone. Ben wasn't finished. He pulled up another photo. It was me, asleep in the NICU chair. My daughter finally stable on my chest for skin-to-skin contact. The tubes and wires were visible. My shirt was stained with breast milk, drool on my chin. I looked exhausted, but peaceful. The first peace I'd had in weeks. This was the day she finally came off the ventilator, Ben said. Your wife had been awake for 38 hours straight. She refused to leave until she knew your daughter could breathe on her own. The nurses tried to make her go home, tried to make her rest. She wouldn't. She said she needed to be there in case something went wrong. Where were you? I don't remember, my husband whispered. Golf tournament, Ben said. You posted about it on Instagram, posted pictures of you and the guys on the back nine, posted a video of you doing shots at the clubhouse after. You got drunk and posted a story about how you got a hole in one, while your daughter took her first breath without a machine. The silence was deafening. Even the kids playing in the yard seemed to have gone quiet. Everyone was staring at my husband, judging, calculating, seeing him clearly for the first time. Ben put his phone away and looked at my husband with something close to pity, something close to disgust. You had a woman who would have died for your child, who sacrificed everything, her body, her health, her sanity, her career, her identity, and you made jokes about her weight. You mocked her. The mother of your child. The woman who saved your daughter's life. Another coworker spoke up. Rachel from HR. I've been covering for you for months. Saying you were with clients when you were at the gym. Saying you were in meetings when you were at happy hour. Saying you were on conference calls when you were playing golf. I'm done. I'm not lying for you anymore. My husband's boss, a man named Dennis, who I'd met twice before, cleared his throat. His face was hard, disappointed. I think we need to have a conversation in my office on Monday morning. First thing, 8 a.m. Don't be late. Ben turned to me. His voice was soft, gentle. I'll walk you to your car. We left the barbecue in separate cars. My husband didn't follow, didn't try to stop me, didn't say a word, just stood there, surrounded by his coworker's judgment, his beer forgotten in his hand. Ben followed me home in his car. He helped me get our daughter inside, checked that all the doors were locked, made sure the security system was armed. Then he sat at my kitchen table while I put her down for a nap. When I came back downstairs, he had his laptop open, a folder on the screen with hundreds of files. I need to tell you something, he said. I've been documenting everything, for months, since week 2 of the NICU, the visits, the bills, the nights you called me crying because he was out drinking, the times I showed up and you hadn't eaten in 2 days because you'd spent all your money on her medications and parking fees, everything. Why? I asked, sitting down across from him. My hands were shaking, because I knew this day would come, when he'd pushed too far, when he'd finally show everyone who he really was, when you'd finally see what everyone else already knew. I needed you to have proof. I needed you to have evidence so he couldn't gaslight you. So he couldn't make you think you were crazy or overreacting. He opened the laptop and turned it toward me, showed me the folder. There were hundreds of files, maybe thousands. Screenshots of texts where my husband complained about being tied down by a sick baby. Messages to his friends about how his life was over, how he'd made a mistake, how he wished he could go back and not have kids. Bank statements showing he'd spent $20,400 on entertainment in 3 months, while I was begging our families for grocery money, while I was putting medical bills on credit cards, while I was skipping meals so we could afford her medications. Photos of him at parties, at bars, on golf courses, all time-stamped during hours I told him our daughter had critical appointments, times I'd begged him to come to the hospital, times I'd needed him desperately, and he'd said he couldn't make it. I scrolled through the evidence, my hands shaking harder, my vision blurred with tears. The worst was a group chat with his friends from 2 weeks ago, a conversation I wasn't meant to see. My husband had written, honestly thinking about bailing. This isn't what I signed up for. Hot wife and fun weekends. Now I've got a fat wife and a broken kid. I don't know how much longer I can do this. His friend Travis had responded. Brutal man. But you gotta think about the optics. Leaving now would make you look like a monster. My husband. I know. That's the only reason I'm still here. Waiting for the right time. I felt something inside me shatter and rebuild itself harder, colder, stronger. You deserve better than this, Ben said quietly. You both do. You deserve someone who shows up, who stays, who doesn't make you beg for basic human decency. I contacted a divorce attorney that night. After my husband finally came home, drunk, defensive, angry. After he yelled at me for embarrassing him. After he said I was overreacting. After he said it was just a joke and I needed to learn to take criticism. The attorney's name was Rebecca. She was in her 50s, had been through her own divorce, and she looked at my evidence with sharp eyes. This is a slam dunk, she said. With this documentation, you'll get primary custody easily. Probably full custody. He's going to have a very hard time explaining this to a judge. The consultation was scheduled for the following Tuesday. But before that meeting could happen, my husband came home Sunday night with flowers and tears and promises. I messed up, he said, falling to his knees in our living room. I'm so sorry. I'll do better. I'll go to therapy. I'll help more with the baby. I'll cut back on work. I'll be there. Please don't leave me. Please. I can't lose you. I can't lose her. I stared at him. At this man I'd loved since I was 24. The one who'd proposed on a beach at sunset. The waves crashing behind us. Who'd cried when I'd first told him I was pregnant. Happy tears streaming down his face. Who'd promised to love me in sickness and in health for better or for worse till death do us part. Where did that man go? I asked. He broke down, sobbing, his whole body shaking. I don't know. I was scared. Watching her almost die every day. Seeing you so exhausted. Seeing you change. Seeing everything change. I couldn't handle it. So I ran. I'm a coward. I know that now. But I can change. I swear I can change. Ben's words echoed in my head. While your wife was fighting for your daughter's life, you were at the bar. I want a divorce, I said calmly. My voice didn't shake. Didn't waver. I was certain. He lunged forward, grabbing my arms. His grip was tight. Desperate. No, please. We have a child. You can't do this to our family. Think about what people will say. Think about our daughter growing up in a broken home. Think about how this will affect her. I pulled away. You already broke this home. You just didn't notice because you were never here. The next weeks were brutal. Worse than the NICU. Worse than anything I'd been through. He told everyone I was overreacting. That I was hormonal. That postpartum depression had made me unstable. That I was having a mental breakdown. That I was keeping his daughter from him out of spite. That I'd always been vindictive and this was just another example. His family called me cruel. His mother showed up at my door every other day, begging me to reconsider, crying, saying I was destroying their family, saying I was keeping her granddaughter from her, saying I was being selfish. Think of your daughter growing up without a father, she said, her voice breaking, her mascara running down her face. Think about how that will damage her. Think about what you're doing. I looked at her. She already is growing up without a father. He chose not to be one. His sister called me selfish, said I was tearing apart the family over a joke, said I needed to learn to take criticism, that all new mothers struggle with their weight and I was being too sensitive, that I was making a mountain out of a molehill, that marriage was about forgiveness. He almost died too, you know, she said, her voice sharp, accusatory, watching his daughter suffer like that, having to go to work every day while you got to stay with her. He was traumatized too. But you don't care about that, do you? I hung up on her. His friends started a whisper campaign, said I was crazy, said I'd always been controlling, said I'd trapped him with a baby, said I was the problem, not him. But Ben stood by me. He testified in court about what he'd witnessed. He provided the documentation he'd been gathering for months. Every receipt, every text message, every photo, every timestamp. He even paid for my attorney when my husband drained our joint account on day 3 of the separation, leaving me with $43 to my name and a stack of unpaid medical bills totaling $8,000. The judge was a woman in her 60s named Judge Martinez. She reviewed everything over the course of 3 hearings. The NICU visitor logs showing my husband had been there a total of 23 times in 87 days, an average of once every 3.7 days. Some weeks he didn't visit at all. The financial records showing I'd maxed out 3 credit cards on medical supplies, medications, and parking fees while he'd spent thousands on recreation. The exact total was 4,847. The text messages where he called our daughter broken, where he said he wanted out, where he complained about being tied down, where he mocked me to his friends. The photos proving he was partying while I was begging him to come to the hospital. Screenshots of his Instagram stories. Him at bars, him on golf courses, him at concerts. All while I was alone in the NICU. When my husband's attorney, a smug man in an expensive suit named Richard, tried to paint me as an unfit mother, tried to say I was mentally unstable, tried to say I was alienating their client from his child, tried to claim I had Munchausen by proxy and was exaggerating our daughter's medical needs, Judge Martinez cut him off. Counsel, she said, her voice sharp. I've reviewed the medical records. This child was critically ill. Her mother's presence likely saved her life. Your client was absent. That's not alienation. That's abandonment. She turned to my husband. Her expression was cold. Mr. Patterson, you made jokes about your wife's weight she gained carrying your child, while she was recovering from a traumatic birth and caring for a medically fragile infant essentially alone. That's not a joke. That's cruelty. And this court does not reward cruelty. I got primary custody. He got supervised visitation every other weekend from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., not overnight, and a requirement for parenting classes and therapy. The judge ordered him to pay child support, mine were $200 a month, and half of the remaining medical bills. His company fired him 2 days after the barbecue incident. Someone at the barbecue, turns out it was Rachel from HR, had recorded the whole thing on her phone and posted it to TikTok. The video had 4 million views within a week. By 2 weeks, it had 15 million views. The comments were brutal. Thousands of them. Tens of thousands. Imagine abandoning your wife and sick baby, then complaining about her weight. This man is a walking red flag factory. The best friend is a better man in every possible way. I hope she divorces him and marries the best friend. Men like this don't deserve families. The audacity. The absolute audacity. His reputation was destroyed. Completely destroyed. He couldn't get another job in his industry, marketing and PR. The story had spread too far. His name was permanently associated with the video. HR departments Googled him and found the story, found the think pieces, found the discussions on Reddit and Twitter. He ended up working retail at a big box store, stocking shelves, making $15 an hour, bitter and alone, paying child support from a minimum wage paycheck, living in a studio apartment. His life in ruins. Ben helped me move into a new apartment. It was smaller than our house, 2 bedrooms instead of 4, but it was ours. Safe, clean, quiet, a fresh start. He installed blackout curtains in my daughter's room so she could sleep better. He showed me how to use the baby monitor properly, how to set up the app on my phone. He stocked my fridge with groceries, real groceries, not just frozen meals. Fresh vegetables, good bread, real milk. He fixed the leaky faucet in the bathroom that dripped every 3 seconds. He installed new locks on all the doors and gave me the only keys. That night, after everything was unpacked, we sat on my new couch. My daughter was asleep in her crib, breathing steadily through the monitor. The apartment was quiet in a way our house had never been. Peaceful, safe, like I could finally breathe. Thank you, I said, for everything. For seeing what I couldn't see. For being there when no one else was. For protecting us. For documenting everything. For giving me proof. For saving us. He smiled, but his eyes were sad. She's gaining weight beautifully, you know. The pediatrician said she's caught up to the 25th percentile now. Her lungs are looking great. Her oxygen levels are perfect. She's hitting all her milestones. I hadn't realized he'd been at that appointment. But of course he had. He'd been at all of them. Every single one. He knew her doctor's names. Dr. Chen, the pediatrician. Dr. Williams, the pulmonologist. Dr. Patel, the cardiologist. He knew her medication schedule better than I did at this point. He knew she hated the banana medicine but loved the strawberry one. He knew she slept better with white noise. He knew she liked her bottle at exactly 98 degrees. He knew everything. Why did you do all this? I asked. You were his friend first. You've known him since college. You were roommates for 4 years. You were in his wedding. Why would you turn on him like this? He looked at me for a long moment. Something in his expression shifted. Something vulnerable and honest and raw. I was his friend. Past tense. But I watched him destroy the most incredible woman I've ever known. I watched him neglect a baby who needed him. I watched him throw away everything that mattered for what? For golf? For bars? For his ego? Someone had to protect you. Someone had to make sure you knew you weren't alone. Someone had to stand up and say, this isn't okay. The air between us changed. Became heavier. More significant. Charged with something unspoken. I'm not ready, I said quietly. Maybe not for a long time. Maybe never. I don't know if I can trust anyone again. I don't know if I'll ever be able to let someone in like that again. He nodded. I know. And that's okay. I'll be here when you are. Or if you never are. Either way, I'm not going anywhere. You and her, you're my family now. That's not conditional on anything. That's not dependent on you feeling a certain way about me. I'm here because you deserve someone who shows up. Period. He kept that promise. Every single day. He showed up every day for the next 6 months, sometimes just to drop off dinner, containers of homemade pasta, roasted vegetables, things that could be reheated easily. Sometimes to hold my daughter so I could shower, actually wash my hair with conditioner, shave my legs. Sometimes to sit quietly while I cried about everything I'd lost and everything I'd survived. Sometimes to just exist in the same space, reading a book on the couch while I folded laundry, a comfortable silence between us that felt like home. He never pushed, never made demands, never expected anything, never asked for more than I could give, just showed up, consistently, reliably, like clockwork, the way he always had. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, my daughter took her first steps. She was 13 months old, adjusted age 10 months because of her prematurity. The physical therapist had said she might be delayed. That preemies often were. But she'd been working so hard in therapy. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon. She was standing at the coffee table holding on. Ben was sitting on the floor about 5 feet away, holding out a stuffed elephant she loved. Her favorite toy. "Come on, sweetheart," he said. "You can do it. Come get Ellie." She looked at him, looked at the elephant, looked at her hands on the table. Then she let go. She wobbled across my living room, arms outstretched, heading straight for the man who'd been showing up every day to read her bedtime stories. 3 steps, 4 steps, 5 steps before she fell into his arms. He caught her and lifted her up, spinning her around while she giggled. Her laugh was pure joy, full and real and beautiful, the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. I captured the moment on my phone, tears streaming down my face. Happy tears. The first genuinely happy tears I'd cried in over a year. My ex-husband had missed it. He'd canceled his last 3 visitations. Something about a new girlfriend who didn't want to date a guy with baggage, who didn't want to spend her weekends at supervised visits. He'd sent a text 2 days before asking if we could reduce his child support because his new girlfriend wanted to go to Cancun, and he couldn't afford both the trip and the Hawaii $200 a month. I didn't respond. That night, after my daughter was asleep, Ben and I sat on the porch. The summer air was warm, humid. Fireflies danced in the yard, little sparks of light in the darkness. Ben had installed a porch swing the week before because I'd mentioned missing the one at my childhood home, the one my dad had built. "I think I'm ready now," I whispered. He took my hand. His hand was warm, steady, safe. "I've been ready since the day I walked into that NICU and saw you singing to her through the plastic walls. You were singing that lullaby your mom used to sing to you, the one about the mockingbird. And you were crying. And you looked so broken, but so strong at the same time. And I knew, this woman is everything. This woman is who people write songs about. This woman is worth waiting for. This woman deserves the world." We took it slow. Dates after my daughter was asleep, with my mom babysitting. She'd drive an hour to watch her granddaughter so I could have 2 hours of normalcy. Quiet dinners at small restaurants where nobody knew us. Long walks in the park where we talked about everything and nothing. Movie nights on the couch where we'd fall asleep halfway through and wake up tangled together. He never pushed, never demanded, never expected anything physical, just showed up, consistently, the way he always had. He learned her routine better than anyone. Her favorite foods, sweet potato puree, banana pancakes, cheese cubes. The exact way she liked her blanket folded, in thirds, then in half. The specific angle she liked her sippy cup held, 45 degrees, no more, no less. He went to every doctor appointment, every physical therapy session, every milestone checkup. He celebrated every achievement like it was the greatest thing in human history. When she said her first word at 14 months, Dada, looking right at him, I saw his eyes fill with tears. She pointed at him and said it again, Dada. He looked at me, uncertain. "Is that okay?" I nodded, unable to speak. She'd chosen him. She knew who her real father was. A year after the divorce was finalized, we got married in my parents' backyard. It was small, intimate, just family and close friends. Maybe 30 people total. Nothing like my first wedding, which had been 200 people at an expensive venue with a band and an open bar and all the things that were supposed to matter but didn't. This was different. This was real. My daughter was the flower girl, toddling down the aisle in a white dress my mom had made by hand. She scattered petals everywhere except where they were supposed to go. She made it halfway before abandoning the basket entirely to run to Ben. He scooped her up and carried her the rest of the way, both of them grinning. She had her arms around his neck, her little voice saying, Dada, Dada, over and over. When the officiant, my uncle who'd gotten ordained online specifically for this, asked if anyone objected, my daughter yelled, "No!" And everyone laughed. The kind of genuine laughter that comes from joy, not politeness. Ben's vows made me cry. Not the pretty crying from movies. The ugly crying. The kind where your nose runs and your face gets blotchy. "I promise to show up," he said. "Every day. Even the hard days. Especially the hard days. I promise to see you. Really see you. Not who I want you to be, but who you are. I promise to love you when you're strong and when you're broken. When you're confident and when you're scared. I promise to be here. Always." That's not a small promise. That's everything. My ex-husband posted something bitter on social media that night. Something about his wife leaving him for his best friend. About betrayal and how women always choose the guy with money. About how the system is rigged against fathers. About how he'd been the victim all along. The comments tore him apart. Thousands of them. His post went viral for all the wrong reasons. She didn't leave you for him. She left because you abandoned her. He was just smart enough to stay. You spent 87 days golfing while your wife lived in a hospital. This is consequences. The best friend was more of a father to your daughter than you ever were. You had everything, and you threw it away to make jokes at a barbecue. Live with it. Imagine calling yourself a victim when you were the one who destroyed your family. The audacity to claim you were a good father when the court records are public. Someone found the court documents, posted them online. The whole internet could see the visitor logs, the bank statements, the text messages, everything. His new girlfriend left him a week later, posted on her Instagram story that she'd been lied to, that she hadn't known the full story, that she couldn't be with someone like that. 3 years later, my daughter doesn't remember the NICU, doesn't remember the machines or the monitors or the fear, doesn't remember the man who used to be her biological father. When she talks about dad, she means the man who makes her pancakes every Sunday morning, shaped like animals, bears and bunnies and butterflies, who learned to braid hair from YouTube tutorials because she wanted princess hair for school, who practiced on my hair first, messing it up a dozen times before he got it right, who now does French braids and fishtails and things I never learned how to do, who has never once complained about the stretch marks on my stomach or the loose skin I'll probably carry forever, who kisses those stretch marks, calls them battle scars, calls them proof of my strength, traces the silver lines with his fingers and tells me I'm beautiful. And I believe him. Finally, I believe him. Last month, we went to a company barbecue, his company this time. Ben worked in software development, made good money, had great insurance. His coworkers were kind, normal. They knew our story, everyone did, but they never brought it up, never made it weird. My daughter, now 4 years old, played with other kids in the yard. She was confident, loud, fearless, everything I had hoped she'd be. No lasting effects from her traumatic start. A miracle, the doctor said. I was 7 months pregnant with our son. My belly was enormous. I'd already gained 45 pounds, and Ben couldn't keep his hands off me. He'd rest his hand on my belly constantly, kiss my shoulder, tell me I was glowing, tell me I was gorgeous, and mean it. At one point, I heard someone ask him why he looked so tired. A coworker named David who'd just had his first baby. Ben grinned, looking over at me with my daughter on my hip, his hand resting on my pregnant belly. That's what happens when your 4-year-old thinks 5 a.m. is morning time and wants to discuss the scientific properties of bubbles before sunrise. Worth every second, though. Every single second. Wouldn't trade it for anything. His boss, a woman named Patricia, who'd been nothing but supportive, laughed and clapped him on the back. You're a good man. Your family is lucky to have you. Ben smiled, but he was looking at me when he said it. I'm the lucky one. Trust me, I got the better end of this deal. As we were packing up to leave, my phone started buzzing. Notifications. Dozens of them. Then hundreds. I pulled it out. The original video from that barbecue 3 years ago had resurfaced. Someone had done a follow-up. One of those, where are they now videos that TikTok loves. They'd found our social media, which wasn't private, we'd never hidden, and added recent photos of us at the park, my daughter on Ben's shoulders, all of us laughing at a pumpkin patch. The caption read, Update. The husband lost his job and pays child support while working retail. The wife remarried the best friend, and they're expecting their second child. The daughter calls the best friend dad, and doesn't remember her biological father. Sometimes karma doesn't need help. Sometimes good people just win. The video had 12 million views. The comments were overwhelming. This is the ending we all wanted. She looks so happy now. You can see it in her eyes. The best friend deserved her all along. This is what real love looks like. She glows in the new photos. She looked dead inside in the old ones. I showed Ben. He looked at it for a moment, then shook his head and handed my phone back. I don't care about karma, he said. I don't care about the video or what people think. I just care about you, about her, about him. He touched my belly and I felt our son kick in response. This is all that matters. This right here, and he was right. That night, my daughter asked why her tummy was going to get bigger like mine. We sat on her bed, her favorite stuffed elephant, the same one Ben had used to coax her into taking her first steps, clutched in her arms. Because you're going to be a big sister? I said gently. Her eyes went wide. Like the kids at school who have babies at home? Ben knelt beside the bed. Exactly like that. You're going to teach them everything. How to be brave, how to be kind, how to be strong, how to be a good person. Will they be tiny like I was? She asked. She knew her story. Age-appropriate version. That she'd been born too early. That she'd been very sick. That mommy had stayed with her the whole time. We don't know yet, I said. But even if they are, we'll take care of them. All of us together. Me and Dad and you. She thought about this for a moment, her little face serious. Then Dad will be there this time, not like before. She didn't remember my ex-husband. She just knew the story. Simplified, filtered through years and therapy and careful explanations. That her first dad couldn't handle being a parent. That he'd left. That her real dad had chosen her. That family wasn't about biology. It was about showing up. Ben's voice was thick with emotion. I'll be there for every single second. Nothing could keep me away. Nothing in the world. Not work, not distance, not anything. I promise you that. She hugged him tight, her little arms barely reaching around his neck. Good, because you're the best dad in the whole world. After she fell asleep, we stood in the doorway of her room, watching her breathe. Steady, strong, healthy. Everything we'd fought for. Everything I'd nearly died for. I never thought I'd get this, I whispered. After everything that happened, after all that pain, after feeling so worthless and ugly and broken, I thought I'd be alone forever. Thought I'd ruined my life. Thought no one would ever want me again. He pulled me close, his hand on my swollen belly where our son was moving, practicing his kicks. You were never going to be alone. I decided that the day I saw you in that NICU, the day you were singing to her even though she couldn't hear you, Even though you were falling apart, you were still singing. I just had to wait for you to see it too. To see that you deserved better. That you deserved everything. Our son was born 2 months later. Full term, healthy. 8 pounds, 2 ounces, perfect APGAR scores, 9 and 10. No NICU, no monitors, no fear, no trauma, just joy. When they placed him on my chest, I cried. But this time they were tears of relief, of gratitude, of knowing what it felt like to have a normal birth, to not be terrified, to have my husband beside me the entire time, holding my hand, coaching me through contractions, crying when our son took his first breath. My daughter held him in the hospital later that day, her face full of wonder. She sat in the chair with a pillow on her lap, and we carefully placed her baby brother in her arms. "He's so big," she whispered. Ben laughed, tears in his eyes. "That's what babies are supposed to look like." She looked up at me. "Was I really that small?" "Smaller," I said. "You could fit in Daddy's hand." She looked at Ben. "Your hand?" He nodded, his voice breaking. "My hand. You were the tiniest, strongest person I'd ever met." I watched them, my family, the one I'd built from the ashes of everything I'd lost. And I realized something profound. Something that changed how I saw my entire story. My ex-husband hadn't destroyed me. He'd just cleared the path for something better. Something real. Something worth all the pain it took to get here. Last week I ran into my ex-mother-in-law at the grocery store. I was pushing a cart with my daughter walking beside me, my son in the baby carrier against my chest. I almost didn't recognize her at first. She looked older. So much older than 3 years should account for. Tired. Gray hair she used to dye blonde religiously. Lines around her mouth that hadn't been there before. She'd aged a decade. She started to say something, then stopped. Just stared at me, at my son in the carrier, at my daughter holding my hand, chattering about wanting strawberries. "How is she?" she finally asked. Her voice was small, broken. "My granddaughter. She's perfect," I said simply. "Thriving, happy, loved, healthy, everything we hoped for." "Does she ever ask about him? About my son?" I shook my head. She has a dad. One who shows up. One who chose her every single day. One who's been there for every moment. First steps, first words, first day of preschool. Everything. The old woman's eyes filled with tears. They spilled over, running down her cheeks. She didn't bother wiping them away. "I failed you," she said. "I failed her. I raised him to think he could do whatever he wanted without consequences. Spoiled him, made excuses for him his whole life. And I defended him even when I knew he was wrong. Even when I knew what he was doing to you was cruel. Even when I knew he was abandoning his daughter. I chose him over doing the right thing." I touched her arm gently, but briefly. Not unkind, but not warm either. "She has grandparents. My parents. Ben's parents. And they adore her. They show up. They're at every birthday party, every holiday, every dance recital. You had your chance, multiple chances. You chose him over her every single time." "I know," she whispered. "I know. I think about her every day. Every single day. I see little girls her age and wonder what she looks like now. What she sounds like. What makes her laugh. And I know it's my fault. I know I did this." She looked at my son in the carrier. "Is this—" "My son," I said. "Ben's son. My husband's son." She flinched at the word husband. He moved on fast. "No," I said. He waited. "He was there the whole time. While your son was out partying, Ben was at the hospital with me. He earned this. He earned us." I walked away. No anger. No bitterness. Just peace. Just the quiet satisfaction of knowing I'd made the right choice. Of knowing my children would grow up seeing what real love looked like. What showing up meant. What commitment actually was. That night, my family sat around the dinner table. My daughter was telling an elaborate story about her day at preschool, complete with dramatic hand gestures and sound effects. Something about a boy named Oliver who'd eaten paste and the teacher having to call his mom. My son was in his high chair, gumming Cheerios and watching his sister with fascination, his eyes following her every movement, already adoring her. Ben was listening to our daughter with complete attention, asking follow-up questions, making her feel heard and important, not checking his phone, not distracted, not somewhere else mentally, fully present. "What happened to Oliver?" he asked. "Did he have to go to the nurse?" Our daughter nodded seriously. "And his mom was so mad. She was yelling about how he knows better." "That sounds scary," Ben said. "Were you worried about Oliver?" "A little," she admitted. "But Miss Amy said he'd be okay. That kids do weird things sometimes." This was what love looked like. Not flowers after cruelty, not promises after abandonment, not words without action, not grand gestures to make up for daily failures, but showing up. Every single day, especially on the hard ones, especially when it would be easier to walk away, especially when it's boring or tiring or thankless. Ben caught my eye across the table and smiled. That smile that said, "I see you. I choose you. Every day I choose you. In sickness and in health. For better or for worse. And I mean it. I prove it. Every single day." And I smiled back, because I'd finally learned the difference between someone who says they love you and someone who proves it. Between someone who makes promises and someone who keeps them. Between someone who's there for the highlight reel and someone who's there for the 3 a.m. feedings and the explosive diapers and the stomach flu and the mundane, exhausting, beautiful reality of life. The barbecue video still circulates sometimes. Goes viral every few months with new commentary, think pieces about modern fatherhood, articles about postpartum body shaming, discussions about what real partnership looks like. College courses use it as a case study in ethics and relationships. And every time it does, my phone fills with messages from strangers, hundreds of them, sometimes thousands. You're an inspiration. This gave me the courage to leave my husband. Thank you for showing what real love looks like. Your story saved my life. I was in an abusive marriage and seeing your strength helped me leave. I'm a single dad now because of your example. My wife was like your ex. Thank you for showing me I deserved better. I usually don't respond, but sometimes, late at night when the house is quiet and both kids are asleep, I'll read through them. And I'll think about the woman I was 4 years ago. Exhausted beyond measure. Broken in ways I didn't know a person could break. Convinced she deserved the cruelty because she'd gained weight. Because she'd put her daughter first. Because she'd changed. Because she'd survived something that should have destroyed her. Because she wasn't fun anymore. Because she wasn't the girl he'd married. And I wish I could go back and tell her, you're going to make it. It's going to hurt worse than you can imagine. The betrayal is going to cut deeper than you thought possible. You're going to feel worthless and ugly and broken for a long time. You're going to cry yourself to sleep. You're going to wonder if you'll ever feel normal again. But you're going to survive. You're going to build something beautiful from the ashes. You're going to find someone who sees your strength instead of your stretch marks, who celebrates your survival instead of mocking your scars, who proves every single day that you made the right choice, that you deserved better all along. You're going to be okay. Better than okay. You're going to be happy. Really, genuinely happy. The kind of happy you didn't know existed. My daughter will start kindergarten next year. She's already reading at a second grade level. She's confident and kind and brave. Everything I'd hoped she'd be. She has no idea how close she came to not making it. How many nights I spent terrified she'd stop breathing. How many times I begged God or the universe or anyone who was listening to just let her live. My son just learned to crawl last week, terrorizing the house with his newfound mobility. He's into everything. Opening cabinets, pulling books off shelves, eating dog food when we're not looking fast enough. Normal baby things. Beautiful, normal, non-traumatic baby things. Ben and I are talking about maybe trying for one more in a few years. Maybe. We'll see. My body barely survived 2 pregnancies. But now I know. If something goes wrong, I won't be alone. I'll have a partner. A real partner. Someone who'll be there every step of the way. And sometimes I still catch myself looking in the mirror, seeing the weight I never fully lost. 30 pounds heavier than my wedding day. The scars from 2 C-sections now. The stretch marks that map my body like roadways to everywhere I've been. The loose skin that no amount of exercise will ever fix. The hair that never fully grew back. The body that's been through hell and back. But now when I look, I see them differently. Not as failures, not as flaws, not as reasons I'm unlovable, but as proof. Proof that I survived. Proof that I fought. Proof that I built this beautiful life from nothing but determination and hope, and the love of a man who saw me when I couldn't see myself. My ex-husband is still alone. Still bitter. Still working retail at the same big box store. Making $15.50 an hour now. They gave him a raise after 2 years. Still living in that studio apartment. Still convinced the world treated him unfairly. That he's the victim. That everyone else is wrong. He sees our daughter twice a month now, when he remembers. Supervised visits where he shows up late and leaves early. Where he checks his phone while she tries to show him her drawings. Where he forgets her birthday and has to be reminded about Christmas. Where he brings her cheap toys that break within a week instead of spending time with her. She's polite to him, uses good manners, says thank you, but she doesn't call him Dad. She calls him by his first name, Travis. And every time it happens, I see him flinch, see the hurt in his eyes, the realization of what he lost. And I don't feel sorry for him. Not anymore. Not even a little bit. Because he had everything. A wife who loved him. A daughter who needed him. A chance to be a hero. A chance to be the dad who showed up when it was hard. A chance to prove himself. A chance to be remembered as the man who stayed. And he threw it all away to make jokes at a barbecue. To avoid the hard parts. To choose himself over everyone else. To take the easy way out. To abandon us when we needed him most. While the man who really loved me was standing right there. Waiting. Ready. Willing to do the hard work. To show up on the bad days. To hold my hand through the fear. To catch us when we fell. To prove that love isn't just a feeling, it's a choice. A choice you make every single day. Especially on the days when it's hard. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's just living well. Being happy. Building something real with someone who deserves you. Someone who sees you. Someone who stays. Someone who means it when they say forever. And every time I look at my family, my real family, I know without a doubt that I won. Not because he lost, but because I found something better. Something real. Something worth every painful step it took to get here. Worth every tear. Worth every moment of doubt. Worth everything. My daughter is asleep in her room, dreaming about whatever 4-year-olds dream about. Probably unicorns and rainbows and the puppy she keeps asking for. My son is in his crib, breathing steadily, his little chest rising and falling in the peaceful rhythm of sleep. Ben is beside me in bed, his hand in mine, his breathing slow and even, and I am home, finally, completely, perfectly, home. Tomorrow, Ben will wake up at 6 a.m. to make pancakes. Our daughter will come running in at 6:15, jumping on the bed, demanding to help. Our son will wake up at 6:30, babbling in his crib. We'll all pile into the kitchen together. Ben will let our daughter crack the eggs. She'll get shell in the bowl and he'll fish it out patiently. She'll insist on stirring even though she makes a mess. He'll shape the pancakes into animals and she'll try to guess what they are before they're finished. This is my life now. This is what I fought for. This is what I almost didn't believe I deserved, and it's everything.